we are.
Yes, here we are. Let's see if we're on yet. Hello, this is Taveau and this is my friend Pam Lowey. Oops, here we are. Good morning. This is Taveau coming to you from Taveau Creative Leadership and Teammate University, Crossbody Unity, and I'm here with my friend Pam Lowey, and we are going to discuss the Bible. You want to say anything about yourself or your background or whatever you...
I did in the first
Yeah,
one.
we did in the first one.
But I was brought up very irreligiously, and I'm trying to learn more at this later point in life, both about the New Testament and the Old Testament, because I'm more ignorant than I would like to say. So I'm playing catch up here.
Yes. Pam is quite the collegiate writer and great person and parent and grandparent. She's done a lot of things with her work, her writing and everything. But she's Jewish, and she was raised without even any training in her Jewish background. So she is open to hear God. And I said this earlier, I felt like, in the Myers-Briggs test, which is a corporate test for personality, nobody learns the same way. And I believe that everybody needs to hear God. Nobody needs to have anything pushed on them, shoved on them, make you want to do it. So we're letting Pam and the Lord figure it out, but she's asking questions, and I'm here to offer my suggestions. So we'll start today with Job 41. This is what she wants. Let's talk about that.
Okay. So I've been trying to read both the Old and New Testament, and I find myself just flipping to a page and reading it. Right. It's a little daunting reading the whole thing, so I have loads of questions. But as I'm looking at this, I guess it's in the book of Job, right? I was telling T that my husband has, I don't want to say thousands, but so many history books. And for him to really get the most out of them, there are notes on every page or comments or whatever. And this belongs to him. He was raised a Roman Catholic. So I just found this on the bookshelf. It is the King James Bible. And are you still there?
Yes, I'm seeing if we're off or on. Let's see what's going on with our thing. There we go.
There we go.
Make sure that, okay.
So as I was flipping through this, I saw one thing that was underlined. So I thought, oh, that's interesting. I'd have to ask him why he underlined it. But this is the passage. It is Job 41:34. Is that right? Yeah. Yes. 41:34 is the last line, which he underlined. And the line says, "He beholdeth all high things. He is a king over all the children of pride."
And I thought she said that, I thought of all the book, all the chapters or verses in Job, I happen to know about this because I've long studied it, pondered it, asked, about myself and the Lord in it. But that chapter is one that is a huge chapter about the spirit of pride. And the lowly snake in the garden had the high spirit of self-righteous pride and accusation. So it's a symbolic, very complex book, but it talks about, this is the bottom line. If you go to the very last verse of Job 41, it says, "He beholdeth all high things, high things. He is a king over all the children of pride." So if we're not careful, every human, this is the fallen condition. That's what we were talking about before. The fallen condition when people, Adam and Eve, sinned in the garden, Genesis 3, they chose their way over God's way. That's the whole issue with this. Whose way are we going to choose? All right. When they chose the wrong way, they took on the personality, the character of Satan, the garden snake, who'd been kicked out of heaven in Revelation 12 from being the Lucifer, the beautiful worship leader in heaven who is mutinous and rivalous, had pride toward God. Accusation and pride go hand in hand. So didn't mean to jump in, but
Yeah. So one thing, actually that's the word I want. What does things mean? I noticed the word used a lot in different passages. So
he beholdeth all high things.
What are things?
Well, in my opinion, the human demeanor and the life demeanor, all life, have different realms and facets. They have different levels that we think have meanings and we perceive them. Some are calm, some are fast, some are hurtful, some are great. So the eternal view, in my opinion, God has a magnificent eternal view. He made the plan. He knows the beginning. He's the Alpha and Omega. All right. But when we get into the realm, the fallen realm of this earth, with all the creatures, great and small, and people, ideas and things, think tanks and everything, we find that there are realms, and he beholds all high things. It is my opinion that when you look at real life and you have the realm of all the achievement, all the accomplishment, all the monetary, powers and principalities, powers that be, that realm, it can be great or it can be lowly. People who are greedy, who are envious, who are rivalry, it can be petty, it can be giant, it can be laborious. So the realm is he beholds all things that are prides. The focus is not on purity or joy or God's eternal plan. The sneaky snake of pride, the Leviathan, the mysterious creature, the serpent, he is only focused on the goal of keeping people in pride, because that's a power. It's an enmity, it's a fighting. It can trigger violence, it can trigger wars, it can trigger family anger,
now,
bitterness.
Just to turn it the other way.
Okay.
Aren't there times when pride is okay?
Yes. The pride that is you're respectful for yourself. You're grateful for yourself. You're not you're humble, but you can still have a confident righteousness that you're not self-righteous. Self-righteous is like, I did it with my own bootstraps. I can think it all. I know more. But when you're confident, you don't want anybody because you respect yourself. It's part of self-government, self-affirmation. It's a healthy thing. So there's a pride of looking nice or, feeling that you've done well, accomplishment that's healthy. Only you and God, it's a heart realm. It's a conscience realm.
Okay,
does that make any sense?
That's a good explanation, yeah.
Okay. This is a meaty verse, isn't
it? It is.
So the devil, let's say, the sneaky snake of pride and accomplishment, he beholds. That means he's fixed his gaze. He's looking for the advantage in a way, in a human life, in a human heart, in a relationship factor, the relationship factor, either with God and us, pride, or another person, or with money, or with finances, or with people we don't get or like, even our children. Some people I was dealing with somebody that had a rivalry with their mother, and the mother was weak and didn't understand what a great child she had raised, but her issue was her. Some people have issues.
Right. And I have to confess that I didn't read the whole piece here. And so this is talking about the devil here, right?
It's talking about a form of the devil, a facet, let's say, of his ministry. It's not a ministry, but it's the undermining of a ministry.
Right. And if I had read the whole thing,
I'll go through it a little bit with the whole thing.
But I think, and that makes sense. He's the king.
When I was in Virginia, in Central Virginia, I happened to go and be sent out to a meeting at a campground, a Pentecostal campground. They were not fancy, they were not flashy. One of their helpers, their workers that lived there, Sister BJ, I'll always never forget, she's the one, we were just chatting and she mentioned this chapter.
Mhm.
It was a gift. Just think, God used a messenger a saint that nobody had ever heard of, to let me know of this giant chapter, which I've taught on and written on. So if I can go through, it says, and see,
Mhm.
you may have, and you can have, a different opinion of what I say.
Yes.
Yes. I'm going to give you my opinion. Pam can give you hers. You hear from God and the Bible. All right. So when we're looking at life, and we're looking at the muck and mire of issues, we're looking at the muck and mire of problems
Mhm.
and relationships. Usually it's mostly about relationships, the snags.
Mhm.
All right, then much of it can be looked at through this. Is it me, my pride maybe, or my fault, or is it them? Or is it just the old snake of the devil trying to trick us both into getting all upset with each other? I mean, I have to watch myself. Everybody does. Any comment or question, Miss Pam? Because I can go through a bit of it if you want, or you can ask questions.
I'm thinking about the opposite of pride, which can also be a problem. Do you know
False humility. You ask a question earlier. There's humility, which is what we need, but then there's false humility. We're not good enough. We're never good enough. We play yourself down too much. She asked me earlier
Mhm.
about righteousness or pride. There's nothing wrong with having confident.
Mhm.
I'm so, I'm grateful for myself. I'm
Yeah.
thankful that I did so well, or took off and helped the kids or whatever. So there's a quality of that. It's a conscious perception of the wrong pride,
Right.
So
oh,
go ahead.
so it's really on a continuum.
It's always it's
on a
every day.
continuum.
You got to say,
Yeah.
is it there? Because some days it's worse than others. I have a great verse, Psalm 123. God showed me years ago for myself, but also people to train. It's Psalm 123, the last two verses. Let's see if we can get there.
Okay.
Let's do this. I want to make sure that people know what we're doing. All right. So if you look at the Job 41, a great training verse for leaders and ministers and parents. All right, it ties in with the fall in Genesis 3, when the human nature fell because it didn't want to please God, it wanted to please self or another person. Adam wanted to please his wife, so to speak, so he participated. All right, the issue is that the common sins, nothing to be ashamed about. See, this is it. I wanted to make sure we are not ashamed when we say that every human person born to anybody in a petri dish or anything has got this same tendency of the three fallen sins, which are the basics: LPV, lust, pride, and vanity. There is nothing wrong, because that is the sin condition. It's what happens afterwards, after the fall. The sin condition gave everybody like a need for a savior, a need for a Messiah, a need for the rules, a need for, the balance that would keep me redeemed, strength of self-control, and say other fruits of the Spirit. All these things are there as reasons for the fall. So there can be all different kinds of manifestations in people, some bigger, some tiny, some secret, like this one in Job 41. There can be a manifestation, depending upon yourself, everybody's different, of lust, different kinds, vanity, pride, and lust, pride, and vanity. So lust, pride, and vanity are just the basics. So if we could just get people off their high horses from killing people when they fall into sin, they have lust, or all these things, let it be a common factor. Tell your children, go to get help, go to God, whatever, but don't get all, hiding and, beating people with the Bible and stuff like they've done history-wise. So when we look at this picture, I'm just going to jump into here. If you go down the list of things talked about in the Job 41, it is a portrait of I call it a sneaky snake. It's really the Leviathan, a sea serpent type thing. The sneaky snake of pride. That means it's hiding. It's got many facets. You can't always catch it, because that's life. That's just life, right? Let's say, can you draw out the Leviathan with a hook, or his tongue with a cord which you let down? Can you put the hook in his nose or bore through his jaw with a thorn? In other words, can you catch it and get rid of it forever and clean it out? No. Go ahead.
So when I'm thinking about lust, pride, and vanity, maybe I'm defining them wrong because don't you need lust to continue
No,
procreation?
see, this is it. The continue is, oh yeah. See, this
Yeah,
is it. The
see,
Puritan
that's what
mindset, the
yeah.
Puritan, the world we've
Right.
grown up in has all this evil attached to the word lust. All right, you can have the lust for other things. That's what the Bible
Okay.
says is not good to have a lust for it. The wrong kind of perception of them is what it is. You can have healthy lust, which is for procreation.
Okay.
You can have, but it's what we've got is a sin consciousness, a rabid, chase them down and shoot them and Bible thump them because you use the word lust. I think a lot of people have done that knee, and you just had to say everybody's got it, some worse than others, some more noticeable. But the issue is we want to have, what is it? Is it the word continuum you said? You want to have a perspective that's not hate speech, that's not I'm so evil. We're all going to fall into temptation. You just have to love yourself and know that God would never throw the book at you. You know what I mean? So lust can be healthy and satisfying in certain, when it's the right way, God governed. But it can also be, I'm greedy and I want more. I'm going to kill you for your tennis shoes. I want, I'm going to do all that stuff. So lust is a huge continuum. Is that the word? It's a perspective. Is it healthy in a realm that's self-governed, and God-given? Or is it killing somebody, making your empire? There's a mistake. Taking advantage of people. Using, accusing, and abusing is usually what you'd find is the evil part. If you're using them, if you're abusing them, if you're accusing them, that is usually a definition.
I like that.
Yeah, I always work on me too.
Right, and thinking, as you're talking about lust.
Yeah.
Lust for pride, lust for money, lust for power, lust for fame.
Yeah.
All that stuff.
It's a picture. If we're going to look at Adam and Eve before the fall, we're looking at wholeness. I'm trying to work at wholeness. Do I feel whole? That means I can go around anybody, famous or not famous, with stuff or not, black, white, or brown, and not feel competition. I don't feel my identity is so weak and low that my value can only be helped if I have more stuff or more power or more high visibility or more power and accolades. So that is part of this field, and it's very complex, but it's pretty interesting.
Yeah, I think as you
identity
dig into it a little more.
So if we're whole, like back in Adam and Eve's day before the garden, all right, they had everything they wanted, all right. They were not competing and comparing. They didn't have FOMO, FOMO, for fear of missing out, which is keeping up with the Joneses. They didn't have that. They were godly content. And I think God, through Christ and also knowledge, Paul says in 1 Timothy 6:6, godliness with contentment is great gain. That's part of wholeness. So I feel Pam is very healthy in the fact that she's not perfect. She's not got a perfect life, or nobody does. I don't. But we know the boundaries to keep, I think, a satisfaction, a peaceful, pleasant satisfaction. You can lose it because the nightly news, or you can have warfare and wars and stuff. But you got to know to come back to it, because it has to do with what, self-control, you think, or what, wisdom, or just.
Well, I struggle.
Yeah, we all do.
With that.
Yeah.
Particularly now, as a ethnic Jew, at least,
as the world,
it feels like the world
Jewish,
is and the Holocaust, of course, how people don't even believe in it now, and I'm losing it, but having the need for hatred
Yes. You know, I want to say this because Pam is Jewish and I'm her good friend, Christian friend. Here we are. She and I, before we met, we both had a similar past. We are so not caring if you're Jewish, if you're black, white, if you're Palestinian, if you're Arab or anything. Yeah. We don't care. We want you to know, we want you to be at rest. So Pam and I were sharing. I had a friend in Texas who stayed with me who is a Muslim, a practicing Muslim. She was a great friend. She was not, we're all mortal humans. She stayed with me for 6 weeks. She had violence by a Christian husband. And she stayed with me. Yeah. So we're all in the boat together. Pam was saying that her children had the bar mitzvah, and they had what? Tell about that a bit.
Okay,
we are pro-humans, not anger, not revenge.
Yeah, no, I'm someone who I can't even count on my fingers how many times I went to a temple either.
Yeah, so she didn't grow up with any religious training at all.
Actually,
but no fear of people either.
My great-grandfather was a rabbi, and then my grandfather said, no way, became, I don't know if he was an agnostic or an atheist.
Okay.
So I think that kind of had an effect. And anyhow, my daughter, on the other hand, went to Armenia, actually, to work after college. She worked for a documentary film company, and it was quite an experience for her. It was basically a third world country. Power went out all the time, and she was able to take on major responsibilities that no way would she have been able to do here. But there is a point to this. So she really got close to people, and Armenians have a similar diaspora. There are Armenians all over the world, and very tight. So she could go anywhere, and they would treat her as an honorary.
I agree. I feel that. I feel like I have that on me in a lot of ways. Because you like people.
Yeah.
You respect people. You respect them. You may not always get them. You may not be always just like them, but you respect them because you have that on you to respect people.
Right.
God made people. So I loved it, the fact that when they had a
right. So the bas mitzvah was in New York for my eldest granddaughter, and it was important to my daughter, I think, at first more as an ethnic statement than a religious statement. But I think as the process continued, it veered more to the religious side. And it was very important to her that her daughter and son, who's younger, be aware of their heritage. And she found a synagogue that I think nominally conservative, which is in the middle between Orthodox and Reform, and a wonderful woman rabbi, and she found herself very involved. Anyhow, so the bas mitzvah, it was not, it was people from all over. My daughter's friends in New York, who were every ethnicity you can imagine, this being New York. There were Muslims, there were Catholics.
See, this is what I'm saying. We can hang out. We can hang out. We can have get along. We can. And we can respect.
It was a lovely ceremony. The rabbi was so welcoming to people, and Aaliyah's, my granddaughter's father, who was raised Irish Catholic, my husband also Catholic, Irish Catholic, the other grandma, who's lovely, none of them were Jewish, but they all had roles in the ceremony, and there were certain things they couldn't do by Jewish law, like they. But what they could do, they could open, there was like a cabinet
Yeah.
holding the Torah, and it needed to be opened at the beginning and then and then put back at the end. So that was their role. So they were really, even though not Jewish, but they were included, and it was just.
That's so cool.
I was
I
thinking
love
if
it.
I lived there, I would go. Even though,
I like community. You know, if you respect people, if you get along with people, you don't compromise. The way I teach this, because of all the snap judgments, you respect people. That's the lowest level of really, if you're a Christian, showing Christ the Messiah's love is respect him. You don't have to agree with them. You don't have to endorse them. You don't have to condone them. And they don't have to condone or endorse you. But if we want to have a society and get along that's more fun and family feel for the kids, for you and everybody, hey, we got to do it like that. You respect them. One thing I wrote and I write, I said, one reason I enjoy people who are different faiths, different beliefs, different lifestyles, different kinds of backgrounds, because they are passionate for their faith. They are not lukewarm. They are hot and well thought out and respectful. I wouldn't, don't want to deal if they're not respectful. They've been respectful to me, and I'm respectful because I like people who are not lukewarm. Go ahead, Pam. Any questions or comments or anything?
I think I talked a lot just
now, So we're gonna we'll close this and we can do a second one on the other one if you want, if you got the but let's do a little bit. I want to finish up the Psalm 141 for everyone to peruse and to know briefly. But if you look a journey through the complex writing of Job 41, it says you'll never get rid of it. It says, will he, that's the spirit of pride, that I call it the sneaky snake, even though Leviathan is like a sea serpent. Will he make many supplications to you? Will he speak soft words? So there are different ways. If you analyze it, the spirit of pride will come at us at different ways to entice us, to supplicate us, to say, just do it this way, do it the easy way, do it, God, like Adam and Eve in the garden, God didn't want you to be just like him. So there are things that will try to manipulate us and talk us out of doing what is right and whole if we're not careful. And it says, will he speak soft words to you? It could be soft and cunning and sly and sweet and seductive or not. It could be your own words. It could be your own, talking, you're convincing yourself. So it is such a giant verse. It could be your appetite. Some people have a lust side that is an addiction. And we go, God wants to help you out with that delivery, and that's a lot of trouble. But you can have also quiet things, like you can eat too much, you can have online view too much, you can have all sorts of things. But don't feel you're the worst thing in the world. Just think, hey, that's a sign I need God. I need more power. I need help or friends or deliverance or whatever it is. Yeah. So I think if we don't if we do it rationally and not striking out at people, just because we have the Puritan memories of people saying, the harlot, I saw her, she's a harlot, Babylon, all the old finger pointing.
But there is that in here too.
They
talk about
Old Testament
stoning unfaithful wives.
Yes. Well, see, when we're looking, this is we're still talking about this.
We're still talking about. Yeah.
In the Old Testament, that was a different day than the New Testament. You will find only the Pharisees, the LP Pharisees, stoning people, not Jesus or Paul or anybody else. So that was, but back in the day, and I don't want to go too much into that, but back in the day, after Adam and Eve fell, there was all the mayhem started, the murder of the next generation, Cain versus Abel, rivalry, all this wars started, So evil came and God set up the law. So the law had rules, the rules and the 10 Commandments, don't do it or else you'll get stoned or else you'll get punished, because God uses that as his tool for back then, the teaching point. Only a few people heard God back then, the prophets. But when you get to the New Testament, it said that Jesus fulfilled the law for us. He took it on, all the curses, all the penalties, and paid the price with his blood. In the New Testament about prophets, it says in Hebrews 1 that in the old days we do listen to the prophets like that. We did listen to because God used those prophets. that were very dramatic and finger pointing more than now. But in New Testament days, Hebrews 1:2 says, but now he speaks to us through his son. So I got to go as a person today, my opinion, that you read through the Gospels and see how Jesus did it, how he acted and reacted. They were the Gospels, not, that means good news, not the gossips, not the flame throwing, you know what I mean?
Like
not the evil eye, not the witch watching, but the Gospels, and that's what we're trying to solid, how to get this realm sort of repopulated, revisited to think new thoughts. Anyway, excuse me for talking.
That's all right. Yeah.
Any final thought?
Any final thoughts? Well, I think pride is such a big topic because you look at the status of our country now and how particularly the so many politicians think they're smarter than other people, that they know all the right answers and can do what they want because they know better. And I think that is incredible. I think you can look at
everybody.
Everybody, yeah.
I was thinking of teenagers, the people, I see the teachers quitting teaching today, and what they've shown going on clips in schools, certain schools, and riots and all that stuff. The Bible said in the last days perilous times would come. People would be lovers of themselves. But it also said, it says love, that in the last days there'd be more knowledge, there'd be more information. And the Bible teaches that knowledge puffs up. Love edifies, God edifies. So we have a lot of knowledge, a lot of income, a lot of no income all together, and a lot of it has to do with this flakiness that we need to get rid of in the body of Christ and ministry as well, the Christian working on us. We can see, I'm not putting all the Christians down, but you got to see who is and who's not. I hate to say it like that. She's Jewish, I'm Christian, but I'm being honest. And if you don't feel it fits, don't do it. This is submitted as a Selah. But we are pro the Christian. We're pro them knowing God in ministry. It's just the certain doctrinal fruit that is the characteristic of the 2 Timothy 3:1-5, from such turn away fellowship and ministry. The 1 Timothy 6:5, Paul said, get out. That's why I'm stirring it up like that, stirring up the hornet. And a lot of it has to do with Job 41, the sneaky snake of pride. So I'm working on me. You work on you. It isn't all lost. It isn't all lost. Nothing is impossible with God. It may look improbable. It may seem like impossible, but it's not. Excuse me. So you want to have the final say, Miss Pam?
When you look at yourself, I have had people in my life, thinking of one friend during elementary and high school, and she always had to put other people down. Her sister-in-law, who was this wonderful nurse, she criticized her figure. Oh, she's top-heavy. Or another friend, later she said, oh, she's letting herself go. She also said once she had to leave Chicago because there were no men good enough for her. And I was, just thinking, clearly our friendship didn't continue. There were other issues, but I remember thinking, well, I don't act like that. I don't treat people like that. That's kind of the same. That's fine too.
Exactly.
I do things that aren't so great. So
that's it. We all have to go for it. I was thinking of the song, God's looking at the man in the mirror. He's looking at the human in the mirror all the time. I think that about myself. But the other is we have to have a reality check. When is it us? When is it God saying, work on you? And when is it, watch out for those people? That's the difference. And Pam is wise enough and sincere enough and honest enough and valuable enough to admit it that she works on it. I do too. I used to have, I have a sister. When I was growing up, I was the firstborn, but I was more strong-willed. And so my sister comes along, and she was quieter, and I thought, man, she gets, she gets along so much better. And I would trigger my mom, who is a strong will, and so I was the firstborn. They practiced, but I would compare myself to my sister. I think I'm not as good as my sister back then. I'm 8 years older, but I still felt triggered that I'm just not calm all the time. I'm just not perfect like she is. And the Lord said, this is what I got. I don't compare you with your sister. I look at you, I look at everybody on this earth like they're my only child. I don't want you to put yourself down. I want you to watch yourself in your own framework of your dynamics, your parameter. If you know your pride, you are. So in other words, nobody should feel guilty or hateful if you are, not as beautiful or not as perfect. You just be yourself, because that has helped me a lot. When I was younger, in my 20s, and you have kids and you have a house and you want to have a family, you want everything to look great like everybody else and the kids to be dressed. And the Lord got me back in the day, and he put in my heart, he says, there was a verse in the Bible, he or she who compares himself with another is not wise. And I went, whoa. And from that day to this, I have not had fun. I do not have trouble with FOMO. People might have trouble with me, and you pick it up. That's not fun. But I do not care. I look at the Lord. Paul said, this helped me too, but about the same time. One last verse. Paul said, I determined not to know anything about anybody except Christ and him crucified. I'm not looking at your stuff. I'm not looking at your outfit. I'm not looking at your race, your gender, your flaws, your big church, your little church, your big house. No, I'm looking at who you are inside out, and that has helped me too. So those things are good. Paul is a big helper to me, and then knowing the Bible without the Levitical law has helped me a lot. But this spirit of pride is just part of human nature. We always will keep on having to watch ourselves and it from now on out. God bless you. He loves you. This is Taveau dear. Thank you so much,
Goodbye,
Pam.
everybody.
All right. Bye-bye.